start to load, and we are streaming.
Excellent.
Go ahead and mute myself.
Well, 2 weeks ago, in reality, a couple of hours ago, in-game, party learned of the sad fate, seemingly, of the 6th Mechanized Infantry Division. It was now combat ineffective, had taken 95% casualties or higher, and was being disbanded. Its various members and hangers-on, the party, were on their own. There was a possibility of salvation, of hope, sad fate. Fellow members of the division contacted you and tried to team up in order to get out of the area, but sadly, you joined up too late. They were already under attack by overwhelming Soviet forces. They took casualties, but you rescued 2 of them against the odds. Nonetheless, as a whole, you were forced to retreat. In a moment of high tension, Brandon took some injuries to his leg, hanging on to the side of the truck, dragged along the ground. Once you got out of the worst of it, though, you split into 2 groups. Most of you stayed with the truck and drove south, heading towards Kepno via a bridge a little south of your current position. 2 of you, Dr. Rostogam and Sergeant Gavriel, walked. They've been having an interesting and soul-searching time. The doctor in particular has had cause to reflect on their faith. But we turn first to the main party, who are currently driving south in the party pickup truck. You look at the 2 people that you have with you, the 2 people that you have rescued, and according to the little name tags on their uniforms, they are a woman named Tolbeck and a man named Crispin. Crispin, who you've already joined up with, he was the person who came to your bunker, is obviously worse for wear. He's taken a bullet wound to the hand and is in a poor condition. Tolbeck, for her part, is looking unfocused as she sits in the back of the truck. Her eyes never quite fixing on anything. Her reaction to the world around her a little sluggish and muted. As you're driving along, is there anything that you wish to do immediately about that, or about the wounds that Dalton has taken to his legs?
I look to... Wolf looks to... a British friend, Subashore, and says, "Do you have any medical training to get at least them enough to so we can see the doctor, so that they're stabilized till the doctor comes?"
She's deafened.
Ah, great.
Okay. Well, I can go into the sheet and answer that question whilst they're not. The answer to that question is no, they have no medical ability. I wonder perhaps if Brandon Dalton has any medical ability.
No, I don't have any medical ability.
Okay.
If I remember correctly, none of us did, and that's why we needed a medic.
Well, you know amongst yourselves that both of these people's conditions don't appear to be immediately life-threatening, and certainly the scrapes and bruises and cuts, as severe as they are to Dalton's legs, aren't impeding his mobility and are not life-threatening. You know this. You do, however, all know, particularly in this world of chemical agents, poor living conditions, radioactive fallout, etc., that wound infection is something that you do need to be worried about, and that it is better to try at least something to keep wounds properly dressed and clean than to just leave them and wait for whatever problems there may be to set in.
Here he goes.
You-
Does anyone have any cloth and clean water on them?
You certainly have a little bit of clean water. If it's just damping a cloth, I'm not going to make that consume a ration. And
Yeah.
it's a minor issue. There are little bits of cloth and so forth about. You could have relatively easy access to those.
Yeah, he's gonna do that and wrap it around the wound so it doesn't get infected.
All right. Can you please give me 2 medical aid rolls? I know you don't have any stats in it, so you're just rolling the empathy stat. But it's a darn sight better than nothing.
It's better than nothing.
Okay, that's a fail. And again. Okay, so that's 2 failures. So you soak up a little piece of cloth. You pour a little bit of water on the wound to clear out any obvious debris, get rid of the worst of it, and you bind the wounds as best you can. You're confident that they're not going to die from blood loss or anything along those lines, but you're not sure how effective this has been when it comes to keeping things clean. Only time will tell. Other than that, your drive through the rough countryside is relatively uneventful. You manage to avoid any damage to the vehicle. You're going slowly because you're off-road, maybe taking dirt tracks, maybe zooming in and out between trees. But there's no sign of the Russians at your back. And as you start heading toward the bridge through the shrub and woodland, I would like everybody to please make me a recon roll at -2.
Okay, let me have a look. I think I got a
Us two, or just the truck
recon.
people?
Just the people in the truck.
Ranger. No. No.
I'll
Intelligent. Rolling.
I'll roll for Sobislaw if Nostro isn't back yet. Okay, well, Sobislaw, the Commodore, you're not really paying attention to the world around you. You're too focused, particularly you, Commodore. You're driving. Your eyes are very much what's 10, 15 feet ahead of you as you're going in between the trees. The Sobislaw is seemingly rallying from what's been happening around them. But Brandon Dalton's eyes are sharp. And as you come to the edge of the tree line, before you break into open cover and start heading down onto the concrete road that then eventually turns into the bridge, you see the bridge. There's one standing house next to the bridge, and what look like 2 demolished houses, things that have been utterly wrecked, one on either side of the river. This is such a small collection of houses, it wouldn't really register on the maps of the scale that you've got. But because of your recon roll, you not only see those buildings, you notice that there appear to be 2 dugouts near the bridge, both of them on your side of the crossing, and what look to be a couple of firing trenches. Nothing big, nothing deep, just little firing trenches. And you can see something moving in the trenches. But at this current time, you don't have more information. What do you do as you notice this?
Well, I would ask the driver to stop, and think I would look through my scope and try to determine who's
You
moving or
pointed
what
it-
they're doing.
Okay.
You pointed out
you-
to the Commodore?
Yes, it was pointed out to driver.
Because he's pointed it out, I got that intelligence thing.
Yes, you do. And that allows you to know something about people that you've had a successful recon roll on. I'll come to that in just a moment. I'm just going to give you the opportunity to maximize the effectiveness of that roll, because Brandon has said that he's going to now look in detail through the scope with the vehicle at a stationary position. You'll get something, but please just give me a flat, normal recon roll to see how much you get. Okay, you get a little something because you've already spotted the danger, but you're not going to get much. What you can tell, looking at things in a bit more detail through your scope over a period of time, is that there's more than one person. You just saw an initial piece of movement, but looking at it, you see a couple of other pieces of movement in the system. And I'm going to bring the whole party over to the relevant map. So hopefully you can see the buildings there and the trenches. You know that layout, and you've seen 3 people. You think there might be more, there might be less, moving around. It is now the evening, and you can tell from their equipment that they are either Russian or Polish.
Are the Polish with the Russians, or are they with NATO? I don't remember. Or in this alternate reality?
In this alternate reality, they are they're not a member of NATO, but they're definitely trying to get into NATO. They applied, they just hadn't been accepted yet. And in battle, come the collapse, the Polish forces fought on the side of the NATO forces. You do, however, know that Polish forces have started to kind of become a neutral third party because both NATO and the Soviets have wrecked their country. And so some of them are still very pro-NATO. Some of them are fed up to the back teeth of everyone. And you can't really tell at the moment which of these might be, if indeed they are Polish at all.
He looks to Subshore, goes, crap. The one person we need is deaf and muted.
I'll just put something in the chat so they realise that. But that is a bit of a problem.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to stop and continue to observe for a while? Do you want to approach? Do you want to back off? What are your thoughts?
I think I would rather hold our position and continue to observe. And I do have a question. Are we approaching from the northeast quadrant of this map?
You will be approaching from... on this map, you would be approaching from the northeast. So I'll draw a line roughly the direction that you'd be coming from, but you've got quite a degree of freedom of movement. You'd be coming in roughly that way.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'd rather... I'd say we should park the truck and then creep, low crawl up and try to get a better view of what's going on.
Hey,
right.
Translator, can we go up and try and talk to these possible Polish people? See where they're at?
It's still muted. So you can
Yes.
Polish people if need be. Okay. All right. Do you want to do the observing before you try that, or do you want to go up and just start trying to talk to them?
Well, if we're not sure if they're Russian or Polish, I think we should observe and try to make a better determination first. Otherwise, we might be throwing Soboslaw to the wolves.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, as you do that. Oh, sorry, you were saying, Mac.
What did the intelligence roll come out of?
So
it
the
get out?
intelligence roll, I'll give you an extra little something because of your intelligence roll, and you get extra little pieces of information. Since you don't quite know whether these people are Russian or Polish, it's hard to tell quite what's going on. But when you then look yourself at the defensive positions and what's been dug in, you can tell that the positions have been here for a little while. They're not fresh. So, for instance, the dirt spoil from where they dug the trenches has started to grow like little shoots of grass. But you can also tell that some of it, particularly around the dugouts, has been severely damaged and repaired recently.
Okay. I think these may be Polish.
Based on the damage, would we be able to tell from which direction the attack that they repaired came from?
Yes, the attack came from the east.
From Russia.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. So it's a higher chance that these are Polish or at least NATO friendly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um.
Give me a recon roll as you sneak up and try and observe. All right. That's very good. Okay. As you sneak up and get a better look at what's going on, you notice two things. The first thing that you notice is actually over here, so this little section of woods on the far side of the river, you see what appear to be a few wooden crosses, as in burial sites. They appear fresh, and on the top of one, and they're in the woods. They're not like right out on the edge, but on the top of one of the crosses is what you recognize as a standard issue U.S. infantryman's helmet. You also notice, as these people are walking around, and you get a slightly better look at their uniforms, that the people who are in this position are Russian. You are able. Well, actually, no, I won't say what you're able to work out unless Mac wants to use the intelligence feature again.
Yes.
Okay. You're able to work out from this information that the Russians have almost certainly attacked this position from the east, been successful, garrisoned it themselves, and repaired it as best they can. You can also tell that these Russians are much less well equipped than the ones that you dealt with to your north.
So these might be conscripts rather than regular army.
Yeah.
Indeed, yeah.
So, is there a way? How many conscripts are there for these guys? How many people they have?
So far, you've noticed about 3, but Dalton knows in the back of his mind that he hasn't seen into the house, he hasn't seen into the dugouts, he's seen people moving around in trenches. They're obscured partly anyway. Like if someone was sitting down in a trench, he wouldn't be able to see them. So he knows that his information is not necessarily entirely reliable.
Yes, Russians. There are Russians. They are unequipped for us.
Yep. And you've got.
You mean they're unequipped
people...
for your lucky 45 caliber gun?
No, they're unequipped. Just for us alone.
Now, do you want to? Because you've got 2 major choices here. If you can come up with any other ones, of course. Actually, you've got 3. 3 major choices. Choice number 1, attack. Choice number 2, move off to the east and just go somewhere else. Choice number 3, wait for the rest of your party to come up behind you. and then all be together before you do anything. Those are your three major choices. But if you can think of anything else, of course you can do that as well.
He goes, well, we might as well wait for the others.
Okay.
We don't have anybody that speaks Russian in our group either, do we?
No, I think you've only got people who speak either English, well, their native languages, English, German, or Polish.
Because it would have been kind of interesting if we had had somebody that could understand Russian sneak up and see if we could determine by overhearing them what they're up to. But
yep. Well, fortunately,
to determine whether or not we can approach them and maybe negotiate.
Fortunately, though it won't be immediately helpful, you can learn Russian. It's something you can do, but that's not going to be something that you have right now.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you decide to sit and wait. It seems from what the Commodore was saying.
Yeah.
Do you retreat a little further into the woods, like have one person watch this and set up camp, or like search for an area to set up a camp, or do you?
Can we go a bit back into the woods to see if we can actually find a little house or somewhere to set up camp?
Absolutely. Make me a recon roll. Everybody in the party can do this.
The dice just don't like me.
Don't worry. Oh, I see Brandon just crushed that. So, okay, as you go a little back further north, all within the same hex, and you're relatively near the waterline, you see what looks like a structure through the trees. Approaching, you find what appears to be a very well-conditioned, single-story log cabin right on the riverfront with a little jetty that sticks out into the river, where you might perhaps tie up a rowboat or something like that. If that's ever what happened, the rowboat is long gone. There's no sign of lights in the windows or smoke coming from the chimney. It's just a log cabin on its own by the side of the river.
He is gonna just get his 45 out and just suss what's inside, just in case, like, somebody's in there and they aren't making any noise or letting off. Yeah.
Okay, sensible. Do you sneak right up to the window and like peer in, or do you watch from a distance?
I sneak up to the window to see.
Okay. Make me a recon roll for sneaking. Okay. You sneak right up to the window. You're convinced that you're very quiet, very stealthy. And you must be, because you provoke no reaction whatsoever. When you get to the windows, you look up. The curtains appear to be drawn, but they're not drawn perfectly. And you're able to peer in through the cracks in the fabric. You see darkness inside. The sun is starting to come down, but you can see hints of furniture and so forth, with what light does make it through the improperly closed curtains. There is no sign of human activity in the cabin at all that you can see.
He's gonna go in.
Okay.
And
You open the door?
Yep.
Yep. Okay. You open the door. You pause, expecting the axeman or the ambush or the man trap that your paranoid mind has started to prepare you for, particularly in urban environments. Nothing happens. You cautiously walk in, start looking about, aware of the creaks of floorboards underneath your heavy boots. Nothing. There's not very many rooms in this cabin. There's a sort of large combined living room kitchen and a large bedroom and a little sort of a semi-outhouse toilet. You look through all of these areas, all of the furniture, all of the fabric and so forth is still there.
Yep.
There's no sign of any person being here at all. You look at the desks and so forth, and tops of wardrobes, and there are family photographs. There are little knickknacks that suggested that certainly someone lived here once. But if that's the case, they're certainly not here anymore.
He's gonna say it's all clear.
Okay.
Can we see the reinforced bridge position from this cabin?
No, it's far enough away that even in full sunlight, you wouldn't be able to see it. It's a little bit of distance. There's a little bit of interrupting terrain, trees, rolls in the ground, etc.
Got it.
The Commodore would let you go and scout it out on a...
Okay. Well,
So
those of you who...
Are
Carry
we
on.
planning on camping out here overnight, or are we just regrouping right here momentarily? It's a
we're
question
only
for the group.
regrouping. We're just regrouping here until the other two catch up to us.
You know that the other two, if they're traveling on foot, are not going to catch up to you until a little way into tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, if we're going to be here for a while, I would suggest to the Commodore that I advance up to where I can observe the intersection, the reinforced intersection, and just watch for any reinforcement or any kind of other activity that might give us information about how to handle these folks.
Okay.
Yes.
We'll stay
He
with the
says,
cabin.
yes, go ahead.
Sorry, I keep talking over you because of the delay. We'll stay with the cabin for a moment. We'll come to Dalton in a second. As you and Soboslao, Crispin and Tolbeck start to go through the cabin and look into its contents more thoroughly, as you're going through drawers and so forth, clothes are there, seemingly for all seasons. Bed sheets, soft furnishings. The whole place is a little musty, like it's been neglected for a while, but everything is there, with a notable exception that there is no food left at all in the kitchen. You find empty tins that have been opened and everything's gone through them, but clearly someone else has gotten here before you and eaten all the consumables, but left behind basically everything else. As for Dalton, please make me a flat recon roll. Excellent. Okay. You sneak up, crawl up, you get to the edge of the tree line, you put yourself up against a nice piece of vertical cover, you start looking through the scope of your rifle to see what's happening. For the longest time, nothing seems to happen. The sun sets behind you, and the Russians in this position just go about their business. Till eventually, you hear the sound of engines approaching from the east. And tell me if you want to move or do anything about it.
Just make sure I'm well covered so that I can't be spotted and observed.
Okay. You are well covered. And the world does not appear to react to you as you keep watching. What you will eventually notice is two trucks, both of which have their headlights not completely off, but have got that sort of hood on them that mean that they've got a very, very short beam, and means that they can't be spotted from a way off. Two trucks appear. I now have to just put that. Here we go. These two trucks, they drive up, boom, 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 to the bridge, and they stop just outside the house. When that happens, you see this man. I now just move him. There we go. You see this man emerge from the house He appears to talk over his shoulder in a manner that you cannot understand to somebody else who's in the house. But he then walks up to the trucks. You also notice that there appears to be at least one other person in the trench immediately to the south who's also talking to the trucks. And there's a lot of gesturing and pointing at trucks, and you can't make out what they're saying, but voices appear to be slightly raised. And one person produces a flip chart at some point and is pointing to it aggressively.
Can I tell by looking at the trucks if they're regular army or if they're civilian vehicles?
These are Russian military vehicles.
Okay.
After a little bit, the person who was in the trenches next to it emerges from the trenches, and he walks up behind one of the trucks, and he takes out what appear to be two relatively large boxes. He takes these boxes inside the intact building before coming out again a few minutes later, going to the back of the truck again, and then in relay, he removes several other boxes, quite a few of them. They appear to be, I'm just making sure. Okay, yeah, it appears to be, oh my word, 12 boxes worth of stuff from the backs of the trucks. He ferries them back into the large building. He's putting them obviously in a different part of the building. And then, and he has to get help from this, so you see another person appear from inside the building and ferry over to assist him. 2 oil drums are hauled out of the back of one of the trucks and also brought inside the building. After that, there's then a few more words of conversation between the person with the flip chart and the person who's the sort of lead truck driver. And then, unless you do anything about it, the 2 trucks will drive on to the west and leave your field of view.
So they could have been dropping off ammo, food, and fuel.
They could well have been. And then they drive over the bridge westwards and keep going on their journey. You also know that the stuff that was just offloaded does not take up the entire cargo containment of the trucks. There's a potential of more stuff still on the trucks.
So the number of people I have spotted now, is that increased from 3 to maybe 4 and 5? 4 or
Yes.
5? I mean?
Yes.
Okay.
You're not entirely sure if some of them are the same people more than once, but yeah, it's increased.
Okay. Well, I think I'm going to maintain my station and continue to observe until the rest of the group gets together, and then I'll report what I've observed, and then we'll go from there.
Okay. The rest of the group coming together won't happen until tomorrow. That means you'll be here, unless you go back to the cabin, all throughout the night, into the morning. Is that something you're comfortable with? What's your plan regarding sleeping, that kind of a thing?
Well, that's a good question. I think I would stay on watch until dawn, and then move back to the cabin and try to catch some rest.
Okay.
Until the rest of the group joins us.
Okay. Yep, that's perfectly fair. Give me another recon roll.
I'll wear out my recon button.
It's one of the most important stats in the game. All right, that's 1 success. Just as your shift is coming to an end and you're about to fall back to the rest of the group, you notice, long after these trucks are gone, what appears to be, let's check my notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 figures approach. they surprise you at first because you had no idea that anyone was walking along the road towards the bridge from the west. However, just as they sort of get to about here, and I'll just put a token in the appropriate place. I'll only put the one in for the moment. Just as they get to there, 8 figures just appear from the underbrush and from the trees and the bushes and so forth. They'd snuck all that way, so close to the post. And then they whoosh, just appear on the road, making themselves very obvious and waving at the guard post. These people seem very well equipped, and they approach with confidence to this little defensive position, and they split off into sort of 3 groups. The vast majority of these 8 people, let's say 6 of them, and they're kitted out for long distance hiking, so they've got their packs, they've got everything. These aren't people in combat mode; these are people in trek mode. 6 of them go straight into the house, and you don't see them again. They just go straight into it. One of them has a conversation in an animated fashion, but friendly, with the person from the clipboard from earlier, and they both produce maps and are pointing at maps and having a conversation with one another. And then one of them gets into the trenches. He's walking around the various defensive positions and is pointing at things and giving what appear to be orders. Give me another recon roll, just to see if you get one extra little bit of info. Oh, double success. Yes. You can tell, looking at this person, who appears to be giving orders, and judging by what he's pointing at, he seems to know what he's doing, because he's pointing at like minor imperfections. So it's like he's telling people that imperfection shouldn't exist. And one of the conscripts, who's much less well equipped, starts giving him lip, saying, "No, I'm not going to do that. This is ridiculous, etc., etc." At least from the body language, that appears to be what's going on. And then the much more well-equipped person, who's wearing a helmet, reaches into one of his pockets and pulls out a beret, and shoves it in this guy's face, before then pointing at the thing again. And since you got 2 recon rolls, you recognize the beret, which is Spetsnaz.
Oh, shit.
And yeah. And at the end of your shift...
Can I tell if this guy with the beret is an officer?
You're too far away to see rank markings, but
Okay.
he's certainly got an air of confidence about him.
Sure, yeah, he's acting like one at least, yeah.
And yeah, once that yelling appears to be done, he goes back into the same building with the other 6. And then once the 2 people with the maps have finished talking with one another, the Spetsnaz person with the map also goes into the building. So now all 8 of them are in there. And that's the last thing you see before you return, unless you decide to wait for longer. But you're going to start getting very badly tired.
Yeah. No, I think at this point I would tactfully withdraw from the area and move back to the cabin to report what I've seen with the truck and the unloading of supplies, and then the presumed Spetsnaz unit arriving on the site.
All right, what's everybody's reaction to this development?
If the unit's in there. So the guy with the knife is that a NATO issue weapon or Russian?
The guy with the knife, who are you referring to?
The one who was waving the knife in the baton in front of the...
Oh, in where the driver's face is.
Yeah.
No, the beret. The beret.
Right,
No,
the beret.
that's a headgear. That's just a
Okay.
hat. It's not a knife.
Okay.
But what you do know from your military background is that the kind of hat someone is wearing very often identifies their unit and what kind of thing they are.
The hat usually gives away the unit. Did you get any other features from the hat?
Basically, they're Spetsnaz, and the guy that was waving it appears to be either a high-level NCO or an officer, based on his behavior.
I don't think he is. If he's probably. Hmm.
Okay. Whilst you're having that think about developing information as the day goes on, we're going to come to Gabrielle and Rostagam, which is that you are completing your hike and you're heading towards what you believe to be the bridge. However, as you approach, coming in on much the same vector as the party did, you notice the wheel ruts in the ground of where the pickup truck clearly went to the edge of the forest, stopped, reversed, turned around, and drove somewhere else. What's your? Do you follow that, or do you press on?
Do we see the same thing they did? A bridge with people and buildings and all that good stuff?
Yes, especially since it's now full day. You can see the bridge, you can see the couple of buildings around it, the little pieces of trench, and one or two guys walking around in it. You don't see the Spetsnaz or anything along those lines because they're already inside the building. You've got no idea they're there, but you can definitely tell that the place is occupied.
Are the wheel marks from the truck are they the only tracks around, or are there other from different vehicles around?
Those are the only tracks around.
And if I don't see a pickup truck, then I'm not. I assume if they were friendlies, then the pickup truck with our colleagues, I would hope, would stop and be like, "Hey, we've got people that that they're going to be coming in." And either wait at the bridge, or if they're going to continue to Kepno, then they'll at least let them know that we're coming. But seeing as how there's no truck and I can't identify I'm assuming I can't identify the uniforms at this distance. I'm gonna take the safe bet and say that it's not friendly.
Yep.
I'll turn to roster. Is it roster jam or roster gam?
It's Rostagam.
Okay, I'll turn the roster gam
That
and
just
say.
makes it sound way cooler.
Okay, I'll say. Roster, are your eyes better than mine? And I'll take off my shades and and then put them back on. Can you tell what kind of uniforms they're wearing?
You can both give me recon rolls.
Okay. That is going to be intelligence, right? Yeah.
Yeah. If you don't have any stats in it, it's just intelligence. Okay, all right. So yeah, you get nothing.
Wow. I wear glasses for a reason. I'm literally blind.
No, my eyes are not much better than yours, Sergeant.
Well, I'd rather play it safe than walk into a trap or something, or a new base of operations. I don't see the pickup truck, and I specifically told them if if they found another vehicle, or if they found allies, or if they found a place to base down at to wait at the bridge, and clearly they're not here. So I'm guessing these tracks are probably them. I don't think my character would know enough about Toyota tire marks to be able to determine if it's Toyota or not, but I'm pretty sure he would look around, and if he doesn't see any other tracks, he can pretty much guess that these tracks that they've been following probably for a good bit of time is them. And see if can he tell which direction they went to, or is it
Yes, he can.
Okay.
It's a relatively easy trail to follow. Although you notice that the clouds overhead are becoming dark and heavy, so it might start raining soon.
Hmm.
But at the moment, it's not raining, and yeah, the ruts are relatively deep, so it's pretty easy to follow.
Okay. Question: can we drink rainwater?
Rainwater, as long as it has been sitting on the ground for ages, is pretty reliably safe.
Okay, cool. So I'll say, unless Rostergem has a specific reason not to, I think Gabriel will say, I think we should follow these tracks and see where they lead.
If you say so, Sergeant.
Okay.
Good.
All right, so you follow the tracks. I'm not going to make you do a recon roll for it because these people weren't trying to hide from you, and it's pretty obvious. And it leads you up to a little wooden shack. I'll ask the rest of the team: have you set a fire in the wooden cabin's rather's hearth, or have you not set a fire?
Yes, we've set a fire.
Okay, there's
Yeah.
smoke coming out of the chimney. It's clearly occupied. There's definitely someone in there. And hey, that's your pickup truck parked outside.
How long did it take us to walk there? Would you say?
10 minutes, maybe a bit longer.
Okay. I'm gonna do face palm, and then I'm going to look around to see if there's anyone standing guard outside. I'm hoping to see like Sorrel or somebody, Dalton or somebody outside. Do I?
Well, Dalton is almost certainly having a nap, so I
Okay.
leave it to everybody else.
We would have been having people on guard.
Okay.
Okay, we'll say it's since Nostro seems to still be having some issues with their mic.
Give me an
We'll say
NPC.
it's the Commodore at the moment.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Whoever I see, as long as they're not wearing a Russian uniform, I'm gonna make myself known in the most like least offensive way possible because I don't want to be accidentally shot, especially by a trigger happy officer, who we call in the military because they're flag officers. We call them flag offs. So I just I yeah, carrying a lucky 45, he'll literally be like ah and accidentally kill me. So I'm gonna like I can't the AK doesn't have a sling, so I'm gonna hold it like way down, and I'm gonna wave when I know he's about to see me. I'm gonna wave and be like Commodore, and hope to God he doesn't get trigger happy.
He's gonna wave you over.
Oh, thank God. All right, so I just walk really quickly towards him and I say, why do you have a smoke going up? They can clearly see that from the bridge. If I could see it, they could
Nope.
see it.
Out of character, the smoke is dissipating by that point.
Oh, okay. So the
Russian
trees are
dogs-
high enough
Yeah.
that it basically can see it. Okay.
These
good.
are this
Yeah.
is high woodland. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's like, they won't see us. You know that.
If you say so. Anyway, what's going on? I'm guessing those you haven't gone across the bridge because they're Russians. I couldn't see. I can tell who they
Yes.
were. Okay.
Yes, they've been supplied. So we can actually do assault when he's ready. But the doctor here has fixed up a few people.
I'll just wave the doctor away to go fix people. Like, go on. I'm sure Sorrel will be happy.
Well, on that theme, Sorrel, Dalton, please give me just a flat, unmodified stamina roll. This is not something that you can push.
Stamina roll. Okay.
Okay, that's
He's
not
past
fantastic. Dr. Rostergram, please make me a flat, unmodified medical aid roll as you come and look at Dalton.
What?
Oh, all of the successes.
This is why we need a medic.
But is that modified or unmodified, though?
Yeah. Unmodified, so you're fine. It's a shame that Dalton didn't get at least one of those successes. Because as you come up, you look at the scuffs and marks and deep cuts, nothing too critical though, on his lower legs. And you see the Commodore's attempt to dress them. And it's clear that Commodore's done the best job that they can. But for whatever reason, it hasn't worked. And the wound has become infected. The sergeant is showing the early signs of the fever.
Okay. We've got some low-grade infection here. I don't want you to be alarmed. Do not be alarmed, sir. Or sergeant, sorry. That's me out of character, not remembering how to address military officers.
NCOs, you just call them by rank.
Yeah, sergeant.
Okay. If you want to treat that, that'll be a separate medical aid roll, and if you've got any antibiotics or you want to consume any resources like that, that will improve the roll quite significantly.
The only thing I would have that would be useful would be a med kit. I've got a couple of those still. But
Yeah,
if it's
I'll
just
let
for
that.
a fever, it doesn't... I don't know.
Okay, if you don't want to use that, that's absolutely fine. You can just do the roll unmodified then.
Right, there's another medical aid.
Okay.
No,
Well, you don't make the situation worse, so, that's fine. But you do what you can, but you get the feeling that maybe this wasn't quite enough. You'll be able to tell in a fair few hours. Until then, you just have to hope. In the meantime, everybody who's taken any points of damage, except Dalton, can heal one of them. Dalton, as he is currently suffering from an infected wound, cannot heal. So I believe that's Rostigam, and I'll do it for the NPCs. Okay.
So where do we do
in the meantime,
damage at on that character sheet? Or is that...
Okay, so if you look at your character sheet, if you look at the basic tab, you've got damage and stress.
Oh, I see it.
Yeah, and then you essentially tick up depending on the damage that you've got, and you tick down.
Did I take any damage? I don't remember.
You did not. No,
Okay.
The only PC who did was Dalton.
I just had the dislocated shoulder that was then replaced.
It was it was fluff.
Reset.
Reset, whatever.
Indeed. Now, Sarah Tolbeck, who was looking really weirdly and shifty and groggy, seems to have recovered naturally. Robert Crispin still very much has a badly damaged hand, if you want to do anything about that.
I can help with... I might be able to help with that.
Okay, that's another medical aid roll, and you can consume resources if you want. If you succeed, it won't instantly fix it, but it reduces the amount of time until it is fixed.
Okay. I do have surgical instruments. I know you had mentioned crushed fingers.
I'll allow it. Modify the roll by +1.
Okay. I'm not sure how to do that directly.
So, if what you should do is if you
Is
look
that
at
basically
your...
bumping up the medical aid letter to up a letter?
Yes, it is. Yeah,
Right.
just for the purposes of this one roll. Fantastic. Okay, you significantly
right there.
reduce the amount of time it will take for him to heal. Essentially, it's measured in days, and so long as you spend a shift either resting or sleeping, it counts a day towards the healing. With a successful medical aid roll, that day counts as 2. So I'm just making a note of how many days he's got left until that's healed. So he's looking better. He's looking happy. He looks up at you and smiles with you. Thanks, Doc. Thanks. I said it doesn't feel good. It really doesn't feel good, but it feels a little better now. I still can't move my fingers quite right, and he tries to move them and then winces as he instantly regrets that decision.
Okay, you need to give it some time to heal now. These things don't happen overnight, unfortunately.
Okay. All right, Doc. All right. And my left hand's still good. Why did it have to be the right one? Damn it. Okay. But the party's all here. You're all together. everybody except the doctor, please consume a ration of food and a ration of water. If you haven't been keeping track of it, I'll just take it from the group pool for the moment.
Yeah, mine's in the truck, so
Okay. So I'll just do that. So
Yeah, mine as well.
by the way, where in our character sheet is our? This is like the least navigatable character sheet I've ever had. But where is our rations in the character sheet? In
It's
our
on the
personal
gear,
character sheet.
probably.
Yeah, you'd be expected to keep track of it in your normal inventory, like in your gear tab.
Gear, gotcha. Okay, and how? And okay, so I don't have any right now. Actually, I don't even have a toolkit or a med kit because I threw it out. So I literally have nothing.
Okay. Well, there's some stuff
Oh, I
left
see
in the
it.
truck,
Carried.
or in.
Um, I'm just, I should have already done this, but I'm just editing it to make sure it's good. So what? So if I don't have any rations on me in person and it's in the truck, do I move it from the truck to my person, or do I just keep it in the truck? Like how do we
Well,
how do we distribute the rations basically?
Well, at the moment, there's nothing sort of in the truck because there's no space in the truck. Everybody has all of the food and water like on their person. It's the only way it can be carried because there was no space in the truck, which means that you'll have to ask somebody else for their food.
Oh, so we literally have no food. I thought we had I thought all our rations were in the truck.
There was a group pool. Everything was in the truck. It's basically in your backpacks because
Which I don't have
the
a
truck
backpack.
was
Gotcha.
completely filled with people.
I
Yeah.
got you now. I was just trying to figure out where the rations are in relation to the truck and the backpacks, but the backpacks are in the truck. So if you heroically threw your backpack out to save a fellow NCO, then you have no rations. Got it. I figured that we had a truck that's the only reason I didn't take any rations on the trip, because I figured that there would be some rations in the truck when I got there, but there's not. Okay, so I literally will have to scrounge for food, which is good because I think do I have that specialty? Yeah, I'm a scrounger. So
You do.
can I do that now, or did they already find everything that they can find in this building?
They haven't. Well, they found everything they can find in this building, but not in this like hex of terrain. So if you want to take some time, and the rest of the party didn't do a huge amount whilst the recon was happening. So if they want to do scrounge rolls for foraging whilst Dalton was spying, you can do that. It's a survival roll.
Can I actually do that?
Yes, you can do it. Do that.
So I forgot I have a +1 to scrounge. So how do I? That's on the. How do I just move D to C?
You won't. Yes, although it's easier if you just type it into the sheet directly. So if you go to the basic tab, the one at the front, you go right down to the bottom, you can see die 1, die 2. You can just set those to whatever you need it to be and then click dice roll. But you won't possibly get better than you just got because your D12 rolled nothing and you can't get better than that. And your D6 rolled 1. And the D8 can only roll a maximum of 1. You can't start rolling multiple successes until you're on D10s. So you've already succeeded as much as you're going to be able to.
I'm just looking for food.
Okay. Yeah,
but you
between the
said there
two
was
of you,
no food though, so if I remember correctly.
in the cabin. But
Right.
if you go out and you start foraging around between the two of you, you're able to find 2 rations worth of safe to eat, berries, mushrooms, classic forage.
Would you get lucky? Commodore. I look over to Mac's character as I'm picking something up off the ground.
He just gives you some rations. Here's he.
Oh no! I would never dream of taking the Commodore's an officer's share of their food. I show like a rusty can of beans, and I say I'm gonna be blowing off the bed sheets later with this.
Make sure you have the window open.
Yeah, sure. So the Russians can just crawl in and cut my throat while I sleep. Okay, no problem. I'll do that.
Maybe you'll stink them out to death.
Well, to be honest with you, if they, I'll be surprised if they haven't moved in on us by nightfall. I can't imagine the fact that we're so close to that bridge and they haven't scouted this area out yet.
They're under equipped as well.
Well, maybe we should go and what's the word? Relieve them of their equipment, and maybe that'll make them feel better. Maybe they'll feel grateful for what they got if we do that.
And they got some nice what would I say in American terms? Nice little oh here's some new supplies.
Well, their supplies can be our supplies. Just saying.
What time of day is it?
It is the afternoon at this point. Dalton is still having a nap, but he won't be much longer. He'll be rousing soon, and yeah, the rest of you are all doing your daily business as you've been describing. Currently, you don't have anyone watching the Russian position.
He goes, do you want to suss out the Russians?
Sure. I suggest. I mean, I know you're out here at the moment on watch, but I would suggest putting, if their health is up to snuff, one of the other squad soldiers, maybe both of them out here, if they're up to it, just to make sure that nobody's sneaking through the woods towards us or anything.
I'll get Tolberg and Crispin, because Crispin can just sit there and
just watch. Yeah.
But Tolben can actually have a look. He goes, let's go and have a look.
Are you're coming with me?
He goes,
I mean, I'd feel better with a German flag officer watching my back.
yeah?
Yeah, it's been a while since I've had some sauerkraut. I mean, yeah, let's go. I'm sure the medic will handle and the lieutenant can handle everything.
Yeah.
Anyway, the medic, seeing that you two both returned successfully from your foraging, will just kind of look away, kind of disheartened for a second there.
No,
you're busy healing
can't
people.
Be good at everything. Yeah. You could also tell, by the way, Rusticam, that Sarah Tolbeck probably suffered a bit of a blow to the head and maybe had a concussion, but she came out of it naturally by the time you got there.
Okay. Sounds good.
You said it was 2 units of rations or 1 for each individual?
2 between you, because you each rolled 1
okay.
success, so you each found 1.
All right. So are we both going or just me?
Yep, both.
All right.
Both go?
Because I prefer going.
All right.
Even with an officer, I'd rather go with another individual so
Go with
that
a buddy.
we look over his shoulder.
All right.
And make sure we're good.
You sneak back up to this Russian position, into the little area where you've been able to watch relatively safely up until now. Things are much the same as when Dalton had reported. Nothing much appears to have changed immediately, but please, both of you, give me recon rolls.
All right.
I'm rolling recon also.
No, you're. I mean, you can if you want. You can come up because you slept the way through the morning, so you're awake in the afternoon.
I was typing and I just heard both doing recon rolls. You were talking about the Commodore and
You've been asleep.
Gabrielle and the Commodore. Yeah, you can join them if you want. You've had long enough to sleep.
No.
Okay. Well, in that case, Wolf doesn't see anything. Lucky doesn't see anything. But Gabrielle, you notice 2 things. One, you notice that there's definitely some form of Russian activity in the 2 dugouts. You don't know if you've seen everything, but you've definitely noticed that something is there. I've just activated them on the token layer. But you also see something else down here. I'm pointing to it. I'm not going to reveal the tokens because you can't tell what it is, but you see a hint, just a hint of movement down here. I'll draw actually a little circle around it. And as you stare at it for a little while longer, trying to work out what that movement is, you realize that the movement is actually one person who maybe just shifted ever so slightly, and another person who's lying dead still next to them. And they appear to also be looking at the crossing.
Can you, I don't know, make a big red X or something? Because I have no idea where you're talking about.
I've drawn a red circle around it. It should be. Oh, it might be on the wrong layer. I'll just move it up.
Yes, it's on the wrong layer.
Don't worry. Okay, that's fine. There we go.
Okay. And you said I saw something or someone move, and then someone like laying down, not moving.
Yeah, essentially there are two people lying down. One of them shifted ever so slightly, which is what you saw, and then when you focused and paid attention to the area, you saw the other person lying next to them. So there are two people lying down there.
Okay, and
Okay, quick question. Do you point this out to the Commodore?
well, I want to get more information. As far as our positioning,
If
I've put us.
you point him out,
You're gonna shoot him with your 45. Yeah, I know.
no. Just point him out.
Well,
It's intelligence trait.
I want to know where
There's
we
a good
are in
reason.
relation, because if they're behind us, then they've seen us already, and if they are in
So,
front of us, then
yeah,
they haven't.
I'll move your token to roughly where your observer position is.
Okay.
Your observer position is going to be roughly here-ish, roughly on that.
Okay, because we're coming from the direction of that arrow, right? So
Yeah.
we yeah. Okay, so I am.
Because
Go ahead.
I can activate the intelligence thing to find out more information about the enemy, the person over in this circle.
That's well and good. But I will indicate that there is someone over there with hand signals. Like I'm not gonna talk anymore. But I'm also gonna indicate that we need to back the fuck up and get further into the tree line or whatever. So because there's two things that could be: either scouts, in which case they probably have already seen us, or a sniper and a spotter, in which case they've probably already seen us. So I really want to get us backing away from this area.
Okay, that's perfectly reasonable. I will tell the Commodore, however, from the intelligence trait, now that this has been described to them, that if these were people who were working with the Russians, they would be looking in more detail, like around where the Russians are and looking at the approaches, rather than looking straight at the Russians.
Oh, they're looking
which
at
is
the
what
Russians.
they were doing.
Okay. In that case, that changes things. I thought they were facing the road, like they were watching for people coming in.
They're sort of looking like that.
Okay.
Now, obviously, every now and again, they're looking left and right and doing like that.
Yeah.
But the focus of their attention is on the Russians.
Okay.
Okay, where's the what angle is the sun facing?
It's the afternoon, sunsets in the west. So
Blue's Clues
it's
episode. What's that got to do with anything?
Okay, there's a reason. Because I want to actually, with my gun, I want to reflect the sun's rays to look like it's actually near them, not to actually give them the indication that we're over here.
okay. All right, you can absolutely do that. I'm just going to do two things. Hang on. Okay. You might live to regret that decision. And here's the other one. I'm just going to do this. This is not actually the Spetsnaz sniper. I'm just rolling it off of his sheet because I don't want to reveal what it is. Woo! Okay. Right. Okay. So, as you're doing that, you notice two things. You're trying to get the attention of the other observers, and as you're doing it, they seem to shift their attention slightly directly towards you. So you've got their attention. You also notice, after a few moments, yelling in Russian, followed by. Okay, just a good distance. That goes down to B, to C, and then you're in good cover. Okay. Okay. So that happens, and then crack! The sound of a gunshot goes off. You're not quite sure what's about to happen, and then suddenly, Commodore, you feel a lancing pain in your leg, as a Spetsnaz sniper has also seen the glint of the mirror that you were doing, and has just put a round into your leg. Fortunately, some of the underbrush and so forth stops it from being a crit, but please take 2 damage. You were very lucky that
Yep.
wasn't a crit. And you've definitely been made and are taking fire.
So I'm not mechanically versus real life. So we're in the bushes. Is it better for us to get up and haul ass for speed, or is it better for us to sneak away because bushes? Because in real life, if they see you, they're just gonna keep shooting at the bushes. It doesn't matter if you sneak away.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's probably, since you're taking sniper fire, not sort of area automatic fire, then precision is currently the key. If it was area automatic fire, it would be a very different scenario.
So we want to be quiet and sneaky.
And crucially, like get behind something, get behind a piece of curling terrain or something like that.
Is there? I mean, from what it looks like, just the map, it just looks like there's some bushes. And what about this rock? Is that something that we can be behind? I mean, I would have said we should be behind.
Easily. Because you're right on the edge of the map. I can say you can just fall off the edge of the map, as it were, and retreat into good cover because you're right on the edge of it.
Okay, so
and if I remember correctly, each hex is 10 meters, so that rock is probably 4 or 5 meters long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna I'll refrain from calling the Commodore an idiot, and I will grab the Commodore and kind of pull them behind that rock, and then make sure that wherever this sniper is, it's on the other side of this rock and can't see us, but also try to figure out a path to get away from this area as soon as possible.
Yeah, you are relatively. It's easy to tell that the sniper fire came from the intact building.
Okay.
And also the fact that gunfire has just gone off means that a lot of people suddenly start being more obvious, and so it's easier to see the Russian positions. You haven't seen everything yet, and crucially, none of the Spetsnaz people have fired outside of the house because I have left it if they're still in there, because it's been mere seconds. But you definitely notice some more Russians who weren't previously noticeable to you get in positions, point guns in your general direction, and they're looking out, trying to what the hell just happened? Who are people shooting at? Only the sniper's seen you.
All right, I have an idea, Commodore. If you want to just let me lay this out, as we're low crawling in the dirt and the grass and the bushes away from this location, I want to say, first of all, they're gonna eventually find that cabin. It only takes 10 minutes to get there. They're gonna find it in 10 minutes. So I'm going to get you to the cabin, get everyone in the truck, and go somewhere. I'm going to be sneaking along the road, and the first military vehicle I see, I'm taking it, and I'm going to catch up with you. But you need to get the people out of that cabin because they're going to come for the cabin.
Yeah. So we make it when we crawl far enough distance out of the sniper's range, we're gonna haul ass to the cabin.
Yep. And I'm gonna stay along the road.
Yeah, there's more yelling in Russian. You notice people starting to run out of the house, jump inside trenches. Some PKM fire starts going over your head. It misses by a mile. It's like the machine gunner doesn't know where you are. He's just suppressing the area.
Right.
And you're able to crawl away without further incident. Please make me a recon roll.
All right.
Okay, yeah. You notice nothing further as you move without further incident. Ooh, Wolf makes it.
Good job.
So, Wolf, you notice two things as you're withdrawing. The first is that the two people who were looking at the Russians appear to be backing off at the same time you're backing off. Second, as you're heading towards the cabin, you notice, quite some distance off, but, not so far that you couldn't walk there, a tree just go and fall down. You're not quite sure what's caused it at this point.
Does
you
it
notice a
rhyme
tree
Okay.
has
with
fallen down.
stank? Or
It is too well known.
artillery?
Not artillery, that'd be a bigger boom.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I would notice that.
But
Yeah.
something has caused a tree to fall over to the cabin's north. And you're able to get back to the cabin without further incident. Your leg, okay, the rest of you, as these two approach, Crispin and Tolbeck wave the pair in. Dalton is getting up, he's getting his gear ready now that he's completed his nap. Rostergram, you see these two walk in. Gavriel's clearly alert, getting a move on. The Commodore is bleeding from their leg. What are your reactions?
Oh my goodness. Let me take a look at that leg.
I grab my
Make me a medical aid
M4
roll.
I don't know where she's laid it, but I grab my M4 and I leave the AK, and then, that you can do your roll. But I need my M4 for what I'm about to do.
Okay. I don't think surgical tools really apply at this rate, because it's just... I don't know, I don't think it applies at this point. So it'll just be regular.
Okay. You don't heal any damage or anything like that, but you successfully
Like,
treat the
tourniquet
wound
thing?
to such a degree that A, it's not going to get any worse, B, it's not going to get infected.
Yeah, he's gonna say we have to move.
Okay. So, you start throwing everything into the back of the car, or into the back of the truck. You start working out what to do. This takes you probably a couple of minutes. What is, and I'll go to the global map now. Here we go.
I also need a pistol. Who wants to give it up? Sorry, I'll bring it back, I promise. I've given
Here. It's
I've-
only got one extra round, though.
one extra round.
One reload.
Oh, reload.
Sorry, one reload.
Okay.
Again, sorry, out of
That's
character
fine.
terminology.
You've got my AK, so you should be fine. So we're looking at the map. Where are we? Oh, there we are. So, all right. I think I've.
So I'll put a red X here, because that's where the Russian bridge was. And,
Where's the
you
cabin?
know something
Can
is...
we?
It's in the hex that you're in. It's roughly where the little red circle is.
Oh,
Okay, can we head south? Not along the main road.
yeah. You guys head south. I want to head east along the road, and the first vehicle that I see that's not a tank, I'm taking it.
Okay, all right. That's absolutely something that you can all do. Are there any objections, any alternate thoughts? And two people need to be on foot, so you need to nominate who those two people will be.
Is that counting me or not counting me?
That's including you, so one other person needs to be on foot.
Can I get one of the NPCs to come with me?
Yes, absolutely fine.
One
Pick
that can actually fire a weapon. If the guy's hand is messed
Sarah
up, then
Tolbeck
I'll
it is, then.
take the other one.
That's also good. I mean, she's the guy with the anti-tank rocket launcher and the feck off huge machine
Yes,
gun.
I need that. In fact, I give her my M4 and I take whatever the big machine gun. Well, no, I can't do
She's
that
actually-
because she's got training in it.
Yeah, although actually you could still take it because she's currently got two. She's got her.
Oh, yeah, that's
I want
right.
to say it's either an M60 and the PKM. One of
PKM's
them's
the
got a
Russian
lot of
one, right?
ammunition. That's correct.
And that's the one that is that the one with a lot of ammunition?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And her, US issued one, the M240, has got about half a belt of ammunition left.
All right, she can keep that. I'll just put lots for
Okay.
ammo type.
You get the PKM, and the two of you head out on your plan. We'll do you two first. So you start heading east. You start heading east out. You're convinced that the cabin's going to be found at any moment. Is it going to be from troops to the south? Is it going to be troops from the north? You don't know. But you're moving east along the road. Make me a recon roll.
All right, recon. Where is it? There it is. Oh wait. Yeah. Wait. Okay.
Okay. All right. You don't notice anything as you're moving, dodging in between the trees, trying to not walk along the center of the road because do you want to get shot?
No.
But walking parallel to it and that kind of affair, and you don't notice anything amiss until suddenly.
Can the NPC roll too, though?
Okay, all right. Usually it's only one person, but I'll give them the roll.
Oh, well, I don't mind if I miss a person, but I'm specifically looking for vehicles right now. So if I miss the person, that's fine. If I just want to look for a vehicle, I don't want to miss a tank. If I miss a tank, I'm kind of fucked.
No. Don't worry, they're easier to spot.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
If I fail at spotting a tank, then I really have failed at life, to be honest.
Yeah, it's dug in. It's got camo all over it, etc.
Exactly.
You don't notice it. Don't do that. But yeah, okay. Sarah doesn't notice anything either. Neither of you notice anything until a figure emerges from a piece of shrubland slightly to your southeast. I'm going to leave that there. You turn back over now to the main group. You're in the car or in the truck. You want to be moving south. How do you want to be going cross country, or do you want to try and get on that little piece of road?
Cross country.
All right, make me a mobility. Carry on.
So, can I use driving?
You can. It will increase your roll by 1. You are going to be, however, from terrain, making me the roll at -2. So overall, make me a mobility roll at -1.
Well, yeah, because I got that driving, it will be -1, so.
Okay, that's good. You don't immediately crash into anything or suffer any mechanical mishaps, etc., as you start driving south. You are really putting some pedal to the metal. At one point, it seems as though you got maybe a little bit too close to the bridge point, because you do have to drive across the road anyway. And a little burst of automatic fire goes over the top of your truck. But nothing hits you. Now, please make me and Dalton's probably the best person for this, please make me a recon roll at -2.
Dalton, you're probably best off with that.
All right, okay. Dalton doesn't see anything. That's fine. So, you're driving along. You don't notice anything until your truck comes to a screeching halt, Wolf, as you slam on the brakes at the very last moment. You notice what appears to be a dug-in American APC, just in the middle of nowhere, and it's got a couple of people outside of it who are pointing guns at you aggressively. What do you do about this scenario? And by the way, the APC in question is an M113. It's not a Bradley. What do you do?
He's gonna say NATO. He says with a German accent, NATO.
Get out of the vehicle! Is the command that is yelled back at you.
He says, Commodore, with
Get
the
out
German
of the
army.
vehicle!
This is English.
I'm higher ranked than you.
Get out of the vehicle!
Dalton would jump out of the vehicle and hold his rifle over the top of his head in a T formation, like, you know, we're not attacking. And hopefully they can identify my uniform as U.S. military.
They sort of gesture at you to take a few steps away, but they don't tell you to drop your weapon or anything like that.
I'll move off a few steps away from the vehicle.
Okay. Has the Commodore gotten out of the vehicle? Has
Yeah.
I'm going to assume Crispin does. Okay, Commodore gets out of the vehicle. They start moving towards you. A couple of the infantrymen sort of go around the sides a little, so they're starting to get behind you. And they will then turn to, first of all, Dalton, because he has cooperated and he's obviously wearing an American uniform. And they say, What outfit are you with?
Formerly of the 6th Mech, but now we're just in a band of survivors. A couple of American soldiers, a German commandant or a commodore, and a British lieutenant.
Okay. You're moving pretty fast. What's happening further north? Why were you moving so fast?
Well, we were headed for Kepno, and at the bridge, we ran into a large force of Spetsnaz and other Russian units and took fire. So we're headed the other way.
All right. I don't know if any of this is true. And he sort of peers a little bit. Sergeant, but the lieutenant, or lieutenant, Americans, the lieutenant is best place to deal with this. Go over there, and he's only talking to Dalton at this point, and he points around the back of the M113 and says, the lieutenant will want to have a word with you, and turns his attention to the Commodore. And say, now, who are you?
He obviously sees the rank. Would he actually see the rank on his
He has no idea what rank you are. He doesn't understand German naval insignia.
He goes, Commodore?
Commodore? What? There are no Commodores around here.
You, German officer, Commodore Wolf.
He gives you this sort of squint. It's clear that he doesn't believe this because he's thinking, A, a German. There are no German outfits near here. They're a long way away. But also, we're nowhere near the sea. Why is there a Commodore here? And
You know, I was wondering that myself.
Okay, first of all, they needed somebody to go out into the middle of on the front lines to go and look into.
And you volunteered?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Papers!
Sorry.
Give me your papers.
Okay, I'm finally back. Okay, finally.
Welcome
He goes,
back.
he goes, stop being a stupid Yankee for a change.
Oh, my God, you want to be shot?
The medic just face palms in the back. Oh no.
He goes,
I swear to... Okay, what the fuck? Did I just fucking woke up from a bloody nap?
these,
You are-
these,
Carry on.
he goes, these guys are trying to question my rank.
Mind
You
if
are
I
being-
wait, mind if I have a look real quick?
They sort of recognize a Brit more easily than they recognize a German. And so, but they can't tell your rank. They don't understand British officer insignia instinctively, these chaps.
Yeah. I'm talking about the medic, the new one. Who's this?
Basically, we're getting questioned by Navy, the American groups.
Oh.
Yeah.
APC. We drove up to an APC, and then they yelled at us to
Yeah.
get out of the vehicle. And the
Yeah.
Commodore resisted. So, well, somewhat
Oh, bloody
resisted.
hell.
No. I wasn't
Sorry, somewhat.
resisting.
Somewhat. Sorry. You just, like...
Be
Never
cheeky.
mind.
But okay, all right. They're suffering with a slight sense of humour failure, but they're still stating their demand. Show us your papers.
Um. Can I try and figure out whether or not if they're acting suspicious or not?
Yes, you absolutely can. Give me either, it's your choice, a recon roll or a manipulation roll. Right, it's actually a persuasion stat. The sheet calls it manipulation. Okay. These people are edgy, but they don't appear to be set on robbing you or shooting you or doing anything along those lines. Their attitude appears to be genuine.
They don't have. I look over and just give out a silent nod, like they're legit. Don't worry, they're fine. They're Yankees.
You get glowering looks when you say that, but
No, I didn't. No, I didn't say it. It was a
Okay.
gesture. I didn't say anything. I just gave a nod. That's it.
okay.
That was
Okay.
it.
What's Dr. Rostigam doing during all of this? Is she just generally being quietly compliant, or
Yeah. Go ahead. Sure.
Yeah, pretty much. Once people started getting out of the truck, she was out too. And then she hasn't, she's not speaking unless she's spoken to directly.
all right? And Crispin's also out there in a sort of hands up, but holding his rifle in his one good hand kind of position. Okay, so carry on.
I go to the dude and goes, go to near the edge line. Tell me what you see.
He walks right up to you, and he's got buddies behind him, but they're not walking up. They're a little way back still, very much looking at you. And he says, "Papers!" And he just goes to reach into your pocket as if to take the papers out of where he suspects they may be.
Yeah. Basically, he normally keeps it in the pocket he thinks it's in. It's not in. He just
Okay.
pulls it out of his boot.
Okay, fine. When that happens, he sort of steps back. He looks a little surprised by that. When you go to reach into your boot, people don't quite point their weapons at you, but they're clearly very much about to. There's like, should I be pointing a weapon at this person? Not quite, but they're not happy with the boot scenario. But when you produce papers, he takes the papers, looks at them, realizes they're all in German, so but they have.
He goes, clearly you can't read German.
He looks at you like, but they have an air of authenticity about them, so he gives them to you, and then he points back round to the back of the truck and says, all of you, go to talk to the lieutenant. He'll sort this out." And as you're doing that, you notice a couple of figures who are also clearly NATO approach from the woods behind you to the north, and they sort of wave at the other NATO troops that you've just bumped into, and they start exchanging words.
Yeah.
Okay. But back now to Tolbeck and Gabrielle.
Gabrielle's dying.
The two-
Yeah.
Wow, imagine.
So the two of you are running along, and you don't notice until a figure appears in front of you. He sort of like steps out of the bushes. He's very clearly got his hands up like this. He's not surrendering. It's more of a, look, I'm not holding anything, I'm not a threat kind of a gesture. And he's slightly on the southern side of the road. And he says, "Get over here! Get over here! Quickly! They'll be here soon!"
He's on the other side of the road from where we are.
He's on the south side of the road. You're on the north side of the road.
I look both ways because, of course, I do, and then I run across the road.
Excellent. Yeah, you don't take any fire. And he says, he sort of like hunches down behind cover and starts speaking to you in an urgent whispered voice. And he said, "Where do you come from?"
6th Mechanized Infantry, United States. Do I recognize his accent?
That's good. Yeah, okay, all right. I really should have put on an accent. He's clearly American.
Okay, I was thinking that, but I wasn't sure. I wanted to make sure.
Yeah. I got accents for some of the voices, but alas, I didn't have one prepared for this one.
That's fine.
But yeah, he's clearly American, and he says, when you say 6th Mechanized Infantry, he sighs and goes, same here. But don't worry, look, it's... God, it's nice to see you, 6th Mech. Look, and he reaches into his pocket and he produces some papers that are like his ID papers, his ration book, that kind of affair.
I ignore it. I'm looking for weapons. Does he have any on him?
Yeah, he's got an M16.
Okay. I just look at him. Look, I don't want your life story. I honestly don't even care where you came from. But we need to find the nearest vehicle that we can commandeer that's not a tank. Do you know where one is?
He looks at you and he says, I know where some are that you'll need a fight for. And I know where you might be able to get some without a fight. But you're going to have to ask nicely.
Who do I have to ask?
He smiles at you and says, Major Samantha Strathford. And you, as a member of the 6th Mechanized Infantry, immediately recognize that name. Major Samantha Strathford, it was a well-reputed officer in the 6th Mechanized Infantry, and she had a reputation for her unit having surprisingly high survivability. She was the unit that you wanted to be in if you could get away with it.
Right.
It's not really, it's not really known how or why her troops seem to survive more than the average.
She probably fired first to ask questions later. That's probably why.
It's possible. But yeah. So yeah, you immediately recognize the name of Major Samantha Strathford.
I say to this guy, by the way, what's his rank? Like private, specialist, sergeant?
This guy's a private.
Okay, good. So I say, private, let me guess, this Stratford is further away than the ones that we have to fight for. Is that right?
Yes, she is.
Of course it is. That's how you write stories.
She's to the side. But don't worry, we can get there today. It's not that far away.
I don't want to make this a road trip. I just want to get the nearest vehicle. So the ones that we have to fight for, do I have to fight an entire base, or is it a couple of trucks in a convoy?
It'll be the small. Well, okay. He looks at that and he thinks, well, if you're lucky, a couple of trucks in a convoy. If you're unlucky, a base in a fortified village.
I don't like relying on luck. And so this
we don't know quite what's going on, but we do know. Look, I'm one of the majors. And then he sort of looks at you as he's saying, "I'm one of the majors," and then he stops talking, as though he's thought, "Oh, I should probably keep my mouth shut at this point."
I finish it for him. I say, "Scouts."
He looks to the side and he's thinking, shit. You can tell he's thinking, shit.
Yeah. I'm like that. That wasn't hard to figure out. Anyway, all right. We'll go with the major, and at a walking pace, it'll take about the better part of a day, right?
Yes, but he's actually going to... Well, actually, take probably longer than a day, considering you're heading towards the evening. But he says, look, you can't have it, but I've got transport not too far away from here. We can take you to the major.
I grin. Yeah, really? And I'm assuming you have a driver waiting at the transport, right?
He nods.
Okay.
And this is all in the same hex. You're still all relatively close to your previous positions.
I say, and I'm guessing this is like a Jeep or a Humvee or a truck.
He says, it's APC.
Out of character, I'm wondering if it's just not the one that they're at.
I wonder. You are like you're less than a kilometer away from them. You're in the
Right.
hundreds of meters.
But I don't even know that they're there, that they exist.
But you don't know that, yeah.
So I'll be in my head, in Gabriel's head, he's like, worst case scenario, I just take their APC. But yeah, he's gonna go with them. He's like, yeah, take me to it, and just follow him, and hopefully keep a better eye out than before.
Okay, so you and Sarah Tolbeck start heading a little southwest, looping around behind the back of the woods, and you will be led towards an APC where you see a couple of US infantrymen standing around. Most of them are in like good cover, good positions. And you see your friends, your colleagues.
I literally went in a circle for no reason.
Yeah, you did. You very nearly went off into almost death. Had I not passed a secret recon roll, the scout would not have seen you moving.
Oh wow!
And not interrupted you.
Oh wow!
Anyway, you move towards the back of the M113, where you're reunited with the party, who are just starting to talk.
I couldn't find another vehicle. Oh look, there's one.
there's an APC. Just starting to talk to a man who has identified himself as good evening to you all. I am Lieutenant Spencer. I'm given to understand that I'm addressing a Commodore of the Kriegsmarine.
Commodore of the Navy.
Very good, very good. I'm sure that you have a great many stories to tell, but alas, time is not on our side. Have you seen any Russian movement around here recently?
Reach. And there should be a platoon from the north. Well equipped.
I see. That is concerning. And he turns to the two people who emerged from the woods to his north not that long ago and says, have you seen anything? And they nod and say, well, actually, Lieutenant, yes, we have. We've seen quite a large number of Russian concentration at the bridge, and we have seen what we fear to be their northern push coming from the north, heading toward the bridge. We have not... gunfire started coming from the bridge as they fired on what we suspect to be friendlies from the north. We took that as an opportunity to withdraw, as we have given our instructions to avoid engagement. And the lieutenant just nods at that and looks back to the party.
He's having a look on how many troops they have right now.
Okay. You see about 6 people.
He's thinking in his head.
Okay.
If somebody else wants to talk to him, they can. He's just thinking.
Where am I located? Am I still farther away?
No, you've been reunited with the party at this point.
Okay.
You've been brought into that huddle.
After giving back the weapons I confiscated from the others, and just like throwing the PKM in the back of the truck because I don't want it, or giving it back to what's her name because I guess she had to. Sorry, what did he asked for specific Russian movements, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I basically say, and what was his rank, Lieutenant?
He's a lieutenant, yeah.
I said, and just generally, how many soldiers do I see? Like a dozen or less, more?
6.
6. Okay.
Half a dozen.
I say, Lieutenant, that bridge that's been taken. I think with the group we have here, we could take it back. But to be honest with you, I don't know if it's worth it at this point anymore. My unit has collapsed, and we're basically just trying to survive. So What unit are you with again?
He smiles when you say that and says, "I do not believe I said which unit I was with, Sergeant.
Oh yeah, your scout told
But
me.
if
Sarah. What was her last name again? Stratford or something like that. Yeah.
Strathford,
Yeah.
yeah.
You're with Sarah Stratford's unit. So I assume.
Yes, he looks at the scout who then like averts his eyes. I see. I will have to have a conversation with some of my companions about their loose lips. However, since that cat is out of the bag, I can confirm that is our intention. Which outfit were you with? You said you were with the 6th?
Yep.
Yes, the 6th.
And then I'll just name off like a random company and squad name or platoon name.
That is much what we had been anticipating. The Major will explain her plan to you herself if you are willing to meet her, but she has given instructions that certain areas be scouted and that survivors from our outfit, the 6th Mechanized Infantry, be gathered and concentrated as best they can. Tell me, to the best of your understanding, what is the situation further north?
Not good. I'll let the
Not
Commodore
good.
elaborate.
Pretty
I think
much
it.
when
I think at this point, Dalton would speak up and tell the lieutenant that he spent the night observing the fortified point and report that he spotted 8 Spetsnats plus anywhere between 3 and 5 uh, regular army or possibly loose conscript force at that point, and report that he had observed supplies being unloaded as well.
that's at the bridge.
Yeah.
That's at the bridge. Yeah.
So, like I said, that would be
Basically,
easy to take, but Kalisz is probably a Russian city at this point.
he goes north of where we were coming from. We had to pick up 2 of a different platoon because one of them ran over, the one with the bullet in his hand, bullet wound in his hand, asked for help to meet up with his squad. By the time we met up with his squad, the Russians were firing. They were well equipped for somebody who should have been suffered heavy depletion. So the vehicles were, they have enough oil, tanks, weapons, and manpower.
I see. I see. That is a very concerning report. I will pass that information along to the Major. In the meantime, if there is that concentration, and particularly the Spetsnaz forces you mentioned, I must assume that we have already been found here. We should probably relocate.
Where's your main base
I noticed
of operations?
he'll say, "I'll take you there,"
Good.
but I will not reveal that at this time.
That's fine.
He then says, "I note that you were say trying to cross the bridge, heading towards Kepno."
Yep.
I will tell you this for free. According to our scouts, Kepno itself is already in Russian hands. If your plans were to go that way, I do not believe they will succeed. Your best chance is to at least come with us. The Major knows that the 6th Mechanized Infantry has been disbanded. She cannot compel anyone to remain under her auspices or command, but her instructions to try and gather people together, I know that as survivors of the 6th, she would extend an invitation to you.
What is this SOP for your rules of engagement? Are you conducting it as if it's just nothing has changed, or is it more of a survive and stay out of the way of the Russians kind of situation?
For the moment, our orders are to avoid engagement unless necessary.
That's good. I'll look to the Commodore and Lieutenant Wolf and say, I say we go with them. More power in numbers. But I think
Yeah.
Rostergam knows what I'm kind of thinking due to our conversation while walking. But yeah, that's what he'll say out loud.
Very interesting. Well, the lieutenant has a bit of a conversation with a couple of his own men that you can't hear, and then he will say, kindly follow on in your truck. I note that there's not quite enough space in there for you all. Those of you who would normally have to walk, we have space inside the M113 to carry you. Please, and he gestures inside the APC for people to get in. And the rest of his troops are filing into the APC.
As Lieutenant, do you want to drive or not? He looks to Sebashaw.
Okay, so Oswald doesn't appear to be answering. That's fine. So the M113 will pull out. The couple of people take a few moments to try and conceal its former presence as best as is possible. You muck up the dugout. It's not going to fool a close observation at all, but casual pass might not notice it. Then they jump back into the M113, and it starts driving south. It will take until the evening, but towards the evening you will, and I've lost control of the truck token for some strange reason, but towards the rest of the evening you will be driven south across country. They very much steer clear of any concrete roads. They will occasionally take dirt tracks. Like this, to Prazka. And as you're coming into Prazka, you notice what appears to be a very different scenario. You break over the woods and you're driving across a large open field. There are crops in the field. They're not particularly tall, but there are crops there. At the far side of the crops, you notice what appear to be a pair of Abrams tanks dug in a fashion to defend the town. As you drive up, you eventually get onto the main road. You stop briefly at a checkpoint, and there's conversations between various people, like the M113 driver, the lieutenant. People look at you. They sort of inspect your vehicle a bit. They look under it, but they don't talk to the occupants. And then after a few seconds, you are waved on, and you are waved into the village, which you notice has been fortified. Not with concrete constructions, but with trenches, with the dugouts, it's been very well done. Please, everybody, give me a recon roll.
Oh, okay. Recon, aye.
Okay.
I got one. Yay, I got one.
Yay!
All right. As you are being driven in, you start to get a little bit more of the lay of what's here. There's already the 2 Abrams tanks at the north. You notice what appears to be more tanks, though you can't quite tell what kind they are, dug in at the southern end of the village. There is a motor pool, which has a couple of Humvees, a few Bradleys, a few M113 troop transports in it, the odd Jeep, bike, etc., and a couple of procured civilian transports.
Are there any horses? Up. That's the question.
Not that you can see, but you haven't seen everything.
True.
You estimate that the number of servicemen and women that she appears to have here are approximately 300. There are far too many of them to fit in the buildings of this village. There are tents that have been set up to accommodate other people. One of them appears to be a medical aid tent with a big old red cross on it. And you eventually notice as well that there are civilians, presumably the occupants of the village, the people who lived here, still wandering around. They appear to be doing service work, and other than that, they seem to be steering clear of the soldiers, and the soldiers appear to be steering clear of them.
So they're
You
Polish
notice there's-
civilians. They're not contractors.
Oh yeah, these are definitely
Okay.
local Polish civilians who are just living here. But they appear to be, still living their lives inside this village, performing service roles as best they can. The vehicle that you're in is driven into the motor pool, parked up. The troops that you're with shuffle out the back and appear to start going about various pieces of business. And the lieutenant waves all of you, from both who were riding in the APC and those of you who are in the truck, to follow him.
All right, I follow him.
He was thinking. You know what would have been funny? He was thinking about going south anyway, and he would have went past the anyway.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yep.
Excellent. So you follow him south, and what he will say as you approach a tent is he'll say, "Whilst I'm sure you're all people of great character and good moral significance, I will have to ask that you surrender any weapons you may have before we enter the tent. We cannot be too cautious in these traitorous and strange times."
I thought you were
He
gonna
hands
say.
over.
Yeah, I thought you were gonna say surrender weapons regardless, and I was just gonna laugh and leave. But you said before you enter the tent, so he'll do it.
Yeah, I think we'll all comply.
He goes, "Please make sure that," and he looks at Griever. "This one right here does not get my piss."
What? What? It's a lucky pistol. Yeah, why would I take your lucky pistol? But I turn to the guy who takes the weapons. I'm like, but if you happen to drop it out in the ditch somewhere and I find it, that's fine.
He gives you a smile, but does nothing.
Yeah, I
He
figured.
gives over the bow as well. So
Oh yeah, the bow and arrow.
Very good.
the 5 bullets.
Excellent. Well, all of
Yes.
it is very obviously put in a box that's kept a little way away from the tent and under guard, but it's obviously it's out in the open. It's not like hidden anywhere. And anybody who did surrender their weapons is invited into the tent.
Does that include knives too?
They'll let you keep the knives. They don't appear to be
Even
threatened
this
by
one.
that. Yeah, they don't appear to be threatened by that.
Okay.
Which is interesting. And yeah, you enter into the tent and you see what looks like the most intact command post you've seen for months. There are radios set up, but they don't appear to be doing anything. They're just sat there. There are people shuffling through paperwork, although you can tell that the papers that they're shuffling through have been written on loads and loads of times, and getting hold of fresh paper is difficult. They're writing on the backs of envelopes. They're writing on pieces of scrap paper. They're rubbing things out, writing again, rubbing things out, reusing things as much as is possible, as even paper is in short supply. But there's administrative work going on here, and towards the back of it appears to be a small gaggle of people, and standing at the center of it is this woman.
My character will be limping.
And for some strange reason, I can't show you her picture. But yes, it is Major Samantha Strathford herself. Those of you who might have seen in your past work would recognize her immediately. She is wearing standard combat gear, for a member of the 6th Mechanized Infantry. It's clear that she's got good equipment, but nothing ridiculous. Her hair has gotten a bit longer than regulations would perhaps allow, but that's not an uncommon sight in the apocalypse. There's a bit of grey creeping into it. She's got slightly tired eyes. But she turns to you as you approach, and you sort of wait for a moment as the lieutenant gestures for you to just stay where you are. If you want to ignore that, you can. But he'll come up and he'll whisper something in the major's ear. After which, you see her attitude shift from one of regard, like cautious regard, cautious watching, to a warm smile. And she said, I am so very glad to see you all. I understand that some of you are survivors of the 6th. If so, welcome. There are far too few of us left. I know you've had a trying few days. Do you have wounded? What is your supply situation?
We're hungry.
She'll turn to what looks like an NCO, not a senior one, and say, please ensure that the canteen is informed that we'll have a few extra visitors for meal tonight. And please alert Quartermaster that we're going to have some people who are going to require resupply. And he nods and goes out the back.
I'm gonna be keeping my eye on the Commodore because I wanna see what the Commodore says. I want to see how the Commodore reacts. I want to see what the Commodore asks specifically or tells the Major. But other than that, I'll be quiet for now.
Okay. Well, in that case, the Major will continue and say, well, I'm glad that you are here. Fewer than we had perhaps hoped would still be alive coming from the north. Do you know if there are likely to be any other survivors from the north coming out behind you?
No.
That is sad to hear, but not unsurprising. And she sort of taps the table, which has got maps strewn about it on. Will eventually say, I'm given to understand, by the way, that you are a Commodore of the German Navy. But may I extend my welcome to you, Commodore?
Thank you. I got a man. He shows his man held radio, and he says this can only go so far, but we're able to hear the breakup of the 6th unit.
She nods and says, yes, I am aware of that, but I refuse to acknowledge it as best I can.
Yep.
The more senior officers may have decided to disband the 6th, but I am still of the 6th, my men are of the 6th, and I am not going to leave the 6th behind. I hope that's an attitude that I can count on you all to show in the coming days and weeks.
Sergeant Gabriel will speak up and say, ma'am, what is the overall war map look like? I know that Kepno was taken relatively recently, as well as probably a good portion of the north, including Calais most likely. But I'm just curious as to which direction we're fighting the enemy, essentially.
She'll give you a look for a couple of seconds as though considering you, but will then gesture to the map beneath her and say, well, Sergeant, please all gather around. You should know the situation that you are in. And she starts gesturing to various points. It says, the recent Soviet attack came on chiefly out of the city of Lodz, and then proceeded on 2 axes. One pushed through the town of Calais. The other went south, went through the towns of Zolkazal and Weilun, but then turned west and headed through Kepno and kept on going toward the town or small city of Wroclaw. We're not quite sure how far they got in that direction, but we know that that is where they were headed. As for the more general situation, we know that the Soviets engaged in classic armored tactics of seeking to achieve maximum penetration, but not being overly delayed by strong points of resistance, instead pinning them down and then keeping moving to try and penetrate as far as is possible. Radio contact has dropped out. We don't know quite what the situation is with any other NATO forces, but at the last time of contact, which was regrettably some time ago, we believe that there were NATO forces in and around the towns of Pretakia, Treblunsk, Kiels, and also far further to the north, although contact has not been established for quite some time. We believe that there was a heavy concentration of our German colleagues in and around Radizjau, but we lost contact with them a very long time ago. There should be NATO forces further to the west around Wroclaw, but we do not know if they have been engaged and destroyed, if they've stood, or if they've retreated.
And what of the south? Have we kept the south red free for the most part?
The south is more of an unknown. What I can say is that there used to be a significant Russian concentration at Kezdichala, but they were forced out of it due to a combination of chemical and tactical nuclear weapons that were used on the town in limited supply some months ago. Most of the villages around us appear to have no concentration of any forces, but we believe that not NATO, but Polish forces remain in control of areas further to our south, around Krakow and Gliwice. There are rumors coming out of those areas, but I don't know to what degree we should be putting stock in those rumors, and my scouts have not been able to get that far as of yet.
He'll just nod.
The Commodore asks, do you have anyone that speaks Polish?
We have a few servicemen and women here who speak Polish, myself included.
What about the civilians? Have you been able to get their help in anything, or are they just kind of living here in conjunction with you and just allowing you to stay here?
The civilians here have been very cooperative and have been assisting us as best they can. We're grateful to them for that. However, it is not enough to supply and sustain us. This village cannot produce enough food, let alone other supplies that a force this size requires. We have yet to enlist the aid of civilians around us. My scouts have reported that nearby villages, with the exception of Weilun, appear to be unoccupied, but they have not made any contact with the civilians in those villages as of yet. We've only recently set up here, having to retreat from our positions further to the north.
So
Looks like we may have to make contact with the two cities to either side of us.
and
Well, they're not cities, they're more villages and towns, but yes.
out of character, because I don't speak Polish. I recognized when you mentioned some of these, like Kalisz and Kepno and that other one that with the nuclear attack, and Lodz, but a lot of them I just don't know which ones you're referring to. Is there a way you could circle the ones that are
That's
like
just what I was
taken
about to do.
over? Yeah, and then the ones that we don't know, and maybe in another color, because I'm leaning towards, and this might be completely off based on my lack of ability to understand, but I'm leaning towards if there's going to be any, depending on what the major wants, because if the major wants a push, then she's obviously going to push north, northwest, maybe even northeast. But obviously, my character is more survival oriented, so he's leaning towards going south and trying to determine which of those cities have been taken or abandoned or whatever, and then trying to make kind of another base there. Or so yeah, I'm just trying to get an idea of which are the blue. Is that the blue? Are those the ones that are Russian or controlled or
So-
NATO?
Blue are areas that she believes are NATO controlled.
Okay.
And I'm now going to draw a little sort of red line where she's been able to work out the Russian front line is.
Okay.
So she's been able to work out that the southern line is like there,
Okay.
and she's been able to work out that the Russians at least went at some point that way as well. She doesn't know the status of how far that's gone or anything along those lines. Carry on.
I'm wondering what city. Can you mark what city the Germans are in? What she thinks the last
Yeah.
known location.
That was the northernmost one.
The northernmost blue circle, Radizijal.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I expected. It was there.
Yeah, the problem with that is we're never going to get through the Russians to get there. Otherwise, I'd totally go there. But
Yeah.
I think south is our best bet for survival. North, northwest, northeast for if you just want to fight things. And obviously, Gabrielle's not planning on doing that anytime soon.
What? She leans in. Do you mention that out loud, or do
No,
you remain quiet?
that's
or...
just his inner monologue going basically. But he will say it looks like if you want to try to make a if you want to try to find other survivors, NATO survivors, and military personnel, the best bet would be to head north, maybe, or not north, south, maybe southwest, and see if we can find another city that's controlled by NATO and go from there. That's kind of what he'll say. To see her, mainly to see her reaction.
She nods when you say that, and says that that is not an unreasonable assessment of the scenario, Sergeant. Share your hesitancy about a push to the north at this time. However, the realities of our current situation mean that retreating on what were once our own lines of supply are not as reliable as they once were. As a result of which, it is my intention to try and form a strong point of circles of control in this region that are held by NATO, that are far enough away from the Russians that we should not draw their attention, and will allow us to control an appropriate amount of farmland and urban areas to sustain us through agriculture and scavenging. As a result of which, and he turns to the Commodore, that I'd be interested in your input on this, Commodore. It is my intention, if it is safe to do so, to relocate this unit to Sezdashawa, which I will now draw a little blue arrow towards Sezdashawa, as I hope that it is now safe to occupy, but I have yet to send scouts in that direction.
Gabriel raises his hand. I volunteer.
That is very good of you, Sergeant. I note your enthusiasm with approval.
He just wants to escape. It's okay.
Do you say that out loud? Do you say that?
He's thinking that in his head.
Oh, thank God. I want the Major to actually trust me.
Or he may have let it sleep.
No, don't. Please. I'm begging
need to
you.
know.
I'm not stealing your 45 caliber lucky handgun, I swear. Just let me slide past this little, just let me get this. It's not like I'm going to run away. Like if I go there, I'll do what I intend to do. It's just if that's a better place to be than here, that's where I'm going to stay. That's all. He's
He's thinking that in his head, and he's like, he just looks at you like
Like,
he just gives you that glare like, what the fuck?
The major turns to the other three members of the team who remained largely quiet. We'll start with she knows British insignia, so she knows that Soboslau's a lieutenant. She will say, "Do you have any thoughts on this situation, Lieutenant?"
she's deafened again.
Okay. In that case, I'll move on slightly, and we'll turn to. We'll start with Sergeant Dalton. Sergeant, do you have any thoughts on this situation or any information you'd like to draw to my attention?
Not really, sir. I'm just along and trying to get out alive like everybody else.
Very good.
I'm just a sniper.
Very good. Although you say just a sniper, it is going to be a very necessary talent. Do not underestimate your usefulness. And she'll then turn to Rosteram and say, what about you?
I'm afraid I don't have much to report. And it sounds like that you've heard even less from the 27th than what I heard, since it's been a week since I was last with them.
She nods and says, alas, our information from them is extraordinarily limited. But it may be that other survivors are at the strong points that I've mentioned. Particularly as an American formation, they are more likely to be towards Protikal Trubionski or Kilis.
She doesn't look very convinced, but she's just kind of keeping, I don't know, she starts looking back at the map again.
Mm-hmm. Well, I must share an unfortunate situation with you all, although from the representations of the good sergeant, and she gestures at Gabrielle, it seems that you may be in a position to help, which is that whilst my troops here have enough food for the time being, and we have a fresh water supply, we also have enough ammunition, we are very low on fuel. I have more vehicles than I can move. Now, I've got enough fuel left over to keep a couple of things running. There's no need to worry about that, but I'm not going to be able to move everything, all the trucks, all the tanks, without a fuel resupply. And any kind of support regarding any resource, be it scrap, be it food, be it anything, is going to be useful, as this village, as I said, cannot sustain us in the long run. As a result of which, I am sending out people to try and gather those resources. You've already very kindly volunteered to go to the town of Sestashala, and I will take advantage of that kind offer and send you there. But I would also be grateful if you could look in on the town of Crespis on your way and try to negotiate the release of any supplies that may be there to us. If you are unable to do that successfully, please just find out as much as you can and report that information back.
What is the situation on Krapis? Is it NATO or just Polish?
It appears to be a free Polish town. There are not Polish troops there, aside from maybe one or two ragtags, certainly not a proper formation. It appears to just be under civilian control, though do not underestimate the hardiness and resolve of civilians who have managed to remain alive this long.
Also, and this is out of character, would it be would it be correct to assume that the fuel that's been taken to the bridge and then onward came from
What I miss.
that blue circle or one of the other cities in between?
You would have no way of knowing where that fuel
Okay.
came from.
I figured as much.
Yeah.
Wait, I'm back. Well, what did I miss?
What was the last thing you
they-
heard?
Talking to the major.
Oh,
Yeah, you're in there with us.
Yeah.
Do you have any input on this?
Basically, I told us
Hey.
to go on a scout mission to a city
Oh.
to find what were we looking for again?
So, for the mission on Sestashala is sort
Yeah.
of twofold. One is to report if it's a suitable location to relocate her whole force to. and the second is to try and gather any supplies, but chiefly fuel, that would allow her to move her entire force.
He would mention that the bridge that we were near got resupplied with fuel, so they obviously got
And
the
as long
Russians have a fuel supply
and
somewhere.
and even though it would be I would consider a low risk low gain to attack it and take the fuel and supplies from it. It does have only a few soldiers guarding it. However, probably half of them are Spetsnaz, as the other sergeant mentioned. So if you put a big enough force together, you could probably overwhelm it, take the supplies, and get out before reinforcements came from Klug. What was it? Kepno. But that's just a observation. It's up to you if you want to
And you
act
could
on it.
take. And he says, and plus you can remove the bridge to stop the advancement on going west as well.
Honestly, it might be
That-
better to take the bridge and keep it so that we can cross it whenever we need to. If we take it out, then we pretty much are stranded on this side until we get to the next bridge.
No,
Bearing in mind, if you look at the map, there
Yeah.
is a bridge in the town you're currently on, like there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, if we
Yeah.
ever end up back up there again, we're gonna regret doing that if we have to go all the way back down or all the way back up. But yeah,
That makes
it's a
sense.
good temporary. I think it's a good temporary solution because they're gonna rebuild a bridge anyways. But I think it would be a good temporary solution to keep reinforcements from coming from the west if we did do something like that.
yeah.
Thank you for your insight, Sergeant and Commodore. I will consider that option very carefully and conduct some further work. I note that your reference to Spetsnaz, that is both reassuring and concerning. If there are Spetsnaz in the area, we must assume that our location has already been found, and I must be careful with further scouting missions, as whilst a small team of Spetsnaz would not dare meaningfully assault us here, they would be very able to pick off isolated groups of people. And they are certain to have found our location either already or soon.
And it probably wouldn't be beyond their capability to infiltrate as the Polish civilian.
I thank you for that thought. Now, the good point about Spetsnaz being there, if it's just a small team, is it's almost certainly not a permanent position. They have probably gone in there, resting, and will keep moving. That appears to be the pattern of the small Spetsnaz teams. They keep mobile, doing whatever it is they do. They don't tend to use Spetsnaz to hold points. So, very well. Well, it is approaching the evening, and I would invite you all to eat with us tonight, to rest in our tents, to tend to to tend to your wounds. We have a medical tent. We are a little low on supplies, but we have some. And if any of you are low on ammunition, I am able to resupply you. The quartermaster is authorized to ensure that you all have at least 2 magazines worth of relevant ammunition. Anything beyond that, I'm afraid to say you will not be a priority for resupply.
Uh, and this may be an out of character question, but you said they had no more ammo. What about guns, weapons? I assume, then this is just me assuming, that if they lost any soldiers, that they would at least keep their weapons, if not their ammo. You know, they'd redistribute the ammo, but their weapons, they should have a little bit of an armory, even if it's not much. Is that the case, or?
When you ask that, she will say, "We have enough ammunition to defend ourselves for the time being. It is not yet a crisis. It is a concern, though. And as for weapons, we do have a small surplus of various different kinds of weapons, both from our own and a few looted pieces of Russian equipment, so we can make use of reclaimed Russian ammunition."
But I have a. He says if you get the right materials to be able to build ammunition, one of our party members is known to build can build ammunition for us.
And I can build guns somehow.
That's very welcome news. You are going to be very useful members of this organization, this outfit. We do not currently have the supplies on hand, but that is part of your work in scouting out and attempting to negotiate with the people of Crespis, but also what we hope to move by going to Sestashala. I hope, and this is a hope, that due to the use of chemical and nuclear weapons in that area, it has been largely abandoned, and as a result of which should be relatively intact and open to exploitation, so long as nobody else has had the same idea to go in. And she looks at her watch, even though it's got nothing to do with time, and she says, it is cutting matters relatively close. By my estimation, the chemical agents and nuclear radiation danger should only just be beginning to fade away.
I think our glue stick right there can easily navigate.
Glow stick? And turns and looks quizzicatively at Rostergram.
Yes, glow stick.
Just out of character, that's kind of funny because you've barely known me, but apparently, apparently you guys held a Geiger counter up to my unconscious body. I'm like, man, she's radioactive.
That is a lot of radiation. Oh boy.
Do we have a Geiger counter?
No,
Okay.
You have no specialist equipment.
That was a joke.
So we're just hanging out with this person that's getting us sick, basically.
Hey, wait a minute. Oh wait, no, I don't think my NBC training would help.
Would the medic?
No, it. Carry on.
I was just gonna say, would the medic know that she is a bit sicker than the rest of us, or would she have no idea?
She's probably
We're, like, out of character, this is permanent stuff. So this is stuff that she's suffered a couple years ago.
Basically,
Before she arrived.
So it's not like her hair is falling off and boils appearing on her face
No.
or anything. Okay.
Or her nose is falling off and turning into a freaking ghoul.
because her thing is out of 5, and that's why I called it a glow stick. And plus, you would have shown at least one of the symptoms of radiation.
The doctor isn't crippled. It's not severe radiation poisoning or anything along those lines. You know, she's kind of gotten over it. It's very much background stuff and a vulnerability to future doses.
Yeah. If we're going through highly radioactive fields, I will run into probably trouble faster than the rest of you guys. Is I think what it comes down to. Out of character.
She will say, the supplies are very, very limited, and unfortunately we no longer have enough for decontamination, but I would not wish to relocate my unit to a town that is radioactive. It was only a tactical nuclear weapon, but nonetheless, it is something we should be cautious of. We have managed to acquire some supplies from an MBC unit in the 6th Mechanized Infantry Division. The chemical treatment supplies and so forth are all long gone, but if you do volunteer to head to Sestashala, I will be able to provide you with a Geiger counter. It's a little old, it's a little battered, but it should hopefully allow you to determine if the area is safe for habitation.
What about Opal? You know anything about that?
Opal, and she looks at that and says, I do not have detailed information about Opal, but I have some reason to believe that it may well be held by Polish forces.
If we control the Pripyat, we can make contact with Opal and see the Polish would, if we extend a hand, they're willing to join forces.
Are you saying you wish to head through Kluxborg and then on to Opal?
No, we can do that after we assess the Pripyat for you and see the pool situation and see if we can offer some hands. Friendly hand.
Well, that would be most welcome. As I said, if for whatever reason the locals are unwilling to part with their supplies, then simply gather as much information you can about their supplies and what they have, and report back. If they make offers that you're unable to fulfill, say they open up to negotiation, but you just don't have the supplies, then again, report their offers back to us, and we will see what can be done. But if you feel able to do that, that would be most useful. We are certainly going to need supplies in quite a wide area, I think, to sustain ourselves in the long term. Sister Shah, we hope, has a large amount of Russian material still abandoned in it, as it was a major supply center for them that they had to abandon in haste when attacked.
What about Dobrodzian, the one between Opul and Steshchokwahwa? Wow, I'm just ruining these pronunciations.
My scouts have observed it from the woodland. It appears to be occupied by Polish civilians, nothing military.
Okay, so I say we go to Krepis, see what we can get from them, then go to Czechoslovakia or whatever and see what we can get from there and see if it's good enough to be there, to even exist there. Then we go to Dobrodzian to see if we can get more fuel or more supplies. And then we could go to Opul for basically the same thing. And we should, by the end of that, have a pretty decent cache. Along the way, like one of the first two places we're going to need to get another vehicle, though. And I need a handgun.
Yes.
He would mention that we need a bigger vehicle.
Yeah, we could just give you our vehicle, and then you can give us like a troop transport or something.
She nods and says, "That is unfortunate, as we do have limited vehicle supply here, but you are undertaking a vital mission for us." And she says, "Please, wait one moment." Takes a step back, goes and starts talking in hushed voices to some other NCOs that are towards the back of the tent. He comes back and says, "Well, I am reluctant to do this, but I believe it is the best that can be done in the scenario. If you surrender your truck to us so as we can continue to use it, we are able to supply a single M113 armored personnel carrier for your use."
He says, "Deal."
Very good. I'll set up the sheet for that. We must, of course, ask that you do indeed use it for the purposes that we've outlined, and we will be in contact with you. Here, and she writes down a little note and hands over a couple of radio frequencies and says, "These are the frequencies on which we may be contactable. We'd like to keep communication to an absolute minimum, and communication range is still very short. Once you pass Crespis, I don't think we're going to have any form of communication. But these are our radio frequencies, and you will be dealing with the lieutenant here," and she gestures to the lieutenant that you already dealt with, "as a primary point of contact on all of my scouting and reconnaissance efforts."
The citizens of the Polish citizens of this town, Prashka, are any of them farmers or ranchers? Have any horses by any chance?
They are a few farmers and almost all arable crops by this point. Meat is a rare thing to come by. There are a couple of horses, but I am given to understand that they are all performing vital work in the fields.
Fair enough. By the way, hold on. Before I say anything, let me look at my character sheet. Because I really want to try to get a pistol, but I don't know if I have anything to trade for it. Oh, I still got the AK. I snagged the AK from the medic, and I said, "Can I exchange this AK for a pistol of literally any kind?"
She sort of looks about a bit to see if any of you object to that.
We only have one mag. You guys, having 300 people, probably picked up more 7.62 ammo along the way. This will be more useful for you guys. If I could get a Russian pistol, I don't even care. It just has to be a pistol.
Of course, I think I can make that happen. And she takes the rifle, just hands it to someone who disappears with it. And she says to this person who disappears with it that please grant Sergeant Gabrielle here authority to draw out one handgun from the armory. And she looks at you, smiles, and then says, 2 magazines of ammunition for it. Nods. And out of character, you can pick anything, any of the pistols from the core rulebook, American or Russian equipment. It'll all be there.
Okay. I'm assuming 1911 is there.
Yep.
Okay, good.
1911 is there.
Finally, I got one. It only took me 3 episodes.
Yeah, got a
Basically,
1911.
Commodore asks, have you heard anything from Germany?
From Germany itself.
Yes.
Give me an either a persuasion / manipulation or a recon roll, your choice.
What was it?
Either sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Manipulation on the sheet or recon, your choice.
I'll go recon.
Okay. Okay. You notice that there's definite hesitation. Like she knows something but doesn't want to say it. But after a few moments, she says, how long ago did you hear from the fatherland, Commodore?
It's been a while. Been
Very
out
well.
here for a few weeks.
You may wish to take a seat, which is that I regret to inform you, Commodore, that Germany appears to be one of the worst hit, worst coping areas in Europe. Germany is, from what we can gather, in a significantly worse situation than Poland. There is greater nuclear devastation, and we hear that Russian forces have entered, not through Poland, but coming up from the south of the country. We also hear of very disturbing rumors coming from Germany. The rear elements of our forces here had some contact with Germany, and I believe that German civilian populations in areas have succumbed to the worst of the baser human instincts, and in larger numbers than here in Poland. You may have heard tales of what sailors do when they are marooned at sea in a boat for weeks with no food. And she sort of looks at you in a case of, you know what I'm saying, are you really going to make me say it?
She could see just dread on his face. Like, dread. When she said, what sailors succumb to,
Yeah. There's no second gap. Yeah, Germany is not in a good
Gone.
way.
It's
Sorry,
gone.
what you... Yeah. Germany is in a bad way. Very bad way.
By the way, I've got to
from what you can
go
tell.
in like 20 minutes, so just letting you know.
Okay, don't worry.
Yeah.
That's fine. We can wrap up then. Okay. So she will say, I apologize that you had to learn this news, Commodore. Unfortunately, I have no other Germans here in this outfit that could give you perhaps a comforting word. However, both you and the lieutenant are welcome to join me and the other officers for dinner tonight. The rest of you, and she gestures to everyone who doesn't hold a commission, Welcome to, as I said, join the rest of the men in the mess for food this evening. You'll have a warm bed and a safe place to sleep tonight before you continue with your mission in the morning. We will also ensure that you have adequate provisions for the next stage of your journey. We cannot give you much food, but we do have fresh water. Hopefully this will assist you.
Do they have any medical capability? Get some wounds patched up, that type of thing.
Indeed we do, Sergeant. We have a medical tent, and she sort of gestures through the wall of the tent but in a direction, which should be able to assist you as best it can.
Thank you.
Very good, Sergeant.
We're gonna need to get him some antibiotics if you have any.
They are rare, but we do have them, and it is better to use the rare supplies that we have than to allow a talented soldier to potentially have a worsening situation and die.
Thank you.
Well, unless there is anything further from you all, dismissed, and the Lieutenant Nichols will talk to you if you need any further information. Dismissed.
What was the lieutenant's name?
Nichols.
Nichols. Okay. For some reason, I thought you said Giggles.
That's what I heard too, actually.
I heard
That is now
too.
his nickname.
Yes.
Giggles.
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 All right, Biggles. I mean Giggle. Biggles wants to fly.
Giggles.
All right, yeah. So I almost said Giggles. Gabriel is the first to like just bounce out this shack or whatever, and looks for like the nearest mess hall or whatever to get some chow, and then he goes straight to bed and sleeps for like 12 hours.
Fantastic.
Fantastic.
Can you and Dalton both give me recon rolls as you're doing this?
Okay. Oh, and he'll also get his handgun from a armory.
Fantastic. Yeah, you get that from the armory. When you leave the tent, as in the command tent, the weapons that you handed in are returned without issue.
Okay.
And you're fully equipped as you go about the base. Brandon, as you're crossing the street to go to the medical tent, you notice that people seem to get out of your way. You're not quite sure why or what's going on, but people seem to be getting out of your way. Sergeant Gavriel, as you are getting your food is given to you by a civilian. And the civilian appears to be doing everything they can to not look anyone in the eye. And it's just quietly going about their business, but that they are avoiding eye contact with everyone.
Is it a specific civilian, or is it all the civilians that are working here?
This is the only civilian you can see here, so this one person is 100%.
Okay.
Literally, they'll be like that.
Basically, the Commodore is going to the medical tent to get his leg
Looked at.
Yeah.
You get your leg looked at? Carry on.
I was just gonna say, I want to say to the civilian that's not looking at us, like, by the way, what time of day is it?
It's evening.
Evening. Okay.
And the sun will be down soon.
As I take the plate of food that he hands me or whatever, I'll say, yes, nothing like a nice occupational evening to get some chow from some unoccupied citizenry. Thank you, sir. And then I'll just walk away.
As the citizen moves away from you, they move away from you at a faster speed. They're not running, but it's a fast walk.
Oh, sorry, I gotta make fun of the locals.
Yeah, they were. That unnerved them. That unnerved them. Yeah.
Basically,
So okay.
Literally, they'll be
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. With the Commodore, when you go to have your wound addressed, the doctor on duty just looks at it, goes, actually, probably not, this one's probably a nurse. The nurse on duty goes, and then says, "I'm sorry, sir, but I cannot improve upon this at all. This has been attended to perfectly. Everything else, you're just going to have to wait for nature to take its course, I'm afraid."
Thank you.
Vega?
He goes, where can I get a drink?
Well, and he sort of looks at your uniform and he's trying to work it out, and then says, "Are you an officer, sir?"
Yes.
Vega, sir. Well, I believe that you are at liberty at appropriate times to go to the officers' mess, where there will be appropriate refreshments.
He goes and finds he goes straight to the officers' mess.
Go straight to the officers' mess. Okay, like in the officers' mess, you sit down. At the moment, like you're not taken. Well, first of all, you notice. Hang on, this is like a little bit nicer. It's not plush. It's not luxury. It's not nice or anything along those lines. But there are chairs with fabric on them. Ooh. Ooh. You get to go into this as well, Lieutenant.
You're talking to me?
Yes, you're an officer.
Oh right. Yep.
So you get to go into that as well. For a moment, because it's not quite mealtime for you, you're allowed to just sort of sit down and be relaxed and be casual if you don't have duties to get to. And there is a civilian just sort of like standing in the corner, just waiting for what you don't know. It's as though they're waiting for instructions. But after a while, you will be called into what's clearly the dining room of this house. And it's not luxurious. It's a rough wooden table. It's chairs, but it's plates. It's knives and forks. It's proper cutlery. And you carry on.
Would Lieutenant Subishaw would be in the waiting room with me?
I am an officer.
Yes.
Yeah, you're a junior officer, but you're an officer.
Lieutenant.
Yeah, officer nonetheless.
He'll go, can you ask him, can I have some alcohol?
I mean, I could try.
Why don't you ask him?
Sure.
You're an admiral.
You're not here, Sergeant.
I know, I'm sorry.
He goes, he's speaking Polish and ask him to get the strongest alcohol.
I can most certainly try.
Okay. You do that, presumably, and he will give a little sort of like, and he scurries out the room, and he comes back, and he's got one of those sort of silver trays that you get stuff served on in swanky places.
Yes.
And on it are a pair of shot glasses in which a clear liquid has been poured, and just offers it to you both silently.
I'm going to say thank you in the appropriate manner.
He'll say thank you.
Silently gives a little tilt of his head and then retreats once you've taken the glasses. And it's vodka. You've got shots of vodka.
I quietly slide the vodka over to the Commodore.
He would just drink them both.
Okay. Just for funs and shits and giggles, 2 shots isn't much, but make me a stamina roll.
You fucking blackout drunk, I bet.
Okay, all right. I mean, not blackout. No. But shortly thereafter, and I know we're approaching the time when people need to go, so shortly thereafter, you are called into the dining room of the house for a sit-down meal. And you notice that around you, not all of the officers that you'd expect for a number of this troop, about a half to 2/3 of them. Clearly, some of them are on duty or attending to various affairs. And at the head of the table is the major. And the conversation, it doesn't tend to be about work or business. It's more anecdotal. And everybody's very familiar. Everybody's very warm. Everybody's having a friendly to use a modern phrase, banterous conversation, and the formalities are a bit more relaxed at the moment. And yeah, since you've noticed that, as these officers are, I mean, people are laughing, they're having a good time. Sometimes you get the feeling that the humor is a bit forced, like they're laughing through the fear, if you see. But nonetheless, they're doing it. You, Lucius, have the beginnings of inebriation, and are perhaps a little too loud, like a little too sherry. You're a little bit too loose in the mood.
He'll probably go, can I have some more of the vodka?
Okay, I noticed that there was a recon roll there, so before you answer that, what was that about Sobislau?
I don't know. I really don't know what the hell I did. I don't know what I was doing.
Okay. Yes, but you will be... okay, you will be given one more shot, but the officer across the way from you makes a joke about how we might not get any more of that for a good long time there.
He just does another shot and he goes,
It was what? You get out there,
yeah. He goes, after the shitty, he goes, well, maybe I just want to get, completely fucked up right now.
You do or don't?
He goes, maybe I want to get, fucked up by drinking alcohol right now.
The major gives you a slightly sympathetic look, and then looks to another one of the officers who's sitting next to you, and then that officer leans over and says, "We appreciate this situation, but you must be sober for the morning and clear-headed. There can be everybody has to stay sharp, I'm afraid."
He goes, then I'll have to go to bed so I don't have to.
Of course.
Yeah.
This gentleman will show you to your tent. And like magic, and we'll come to the NCOs in a moment, like magic, oof, one of the polar civilians like appears from the corner of the room and leads you to a tent where you can then have a sleep undisturbed without issue. And indeed, everybody will be able to eat in their various places without issue. Dalton, who was starting to get the problems of infection, you can please make me another stamina roll, but at +1 as you get more medical attention.
Stamina roll. Okay, yeah.
Okay, you don't get over it. You continue to suffer the effects, but we can deal with that during the next session. What that does, however, mean, crucially, is that you don't recover damage over time. Everybody else, except Brandon, can recover another point of damage if you've taken any, as you all get a good night's sleep. And I'm not going to ask you to tick off any food or water rations for the next morning, as you're going to be fed by this place. Everybody can also assume that they have got 2 water rations given to them, which will take the party water. I'll do it as party water, but it'll take. No, everybody just set your water rations at 2. That's 2 days worth of water. If you've got more than that, then you can hold on to it, but you're effectively given full canteens of fresh water from their fresh water source.
All right.
You're all allowed to wash, etc. And we will begin next session as you ride off towards the town of Crespes in your brand spanking new M113.